And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going back to mid-17th century into Europe. We're going to be battling for control of the different levels of royalty in Britain, in the German states, France, Spain. We're talking about the game called Royals here. Now this is designed by Peter House, the same one that did Francis Drake, Triassic Terror. It plays 2 to 5 players, plays in just an hour. It's a light Euro game with a lot of decisions, even though it's really light. Right now it's from Abacus Spiel. It's going to be getting US distribution soon, I'm sure. So let's take a look. I'll show you how it's played, and I'll see you on the other side. Here's the board of Royals. It's split up into 4 sections. We have red, which is Britain, green, which is German states, blue, which is France, and yellow, which is Spain. In this game, you're going to be trying to control different areas and towns in sort of countries. You're also going to be trying to have most control over some of the people in the noble house. And through that, you're going to be scoring points during the game and through the end of the game. Let's talk about how a turn works. Now, the first round has some special things that happen depending on player turn order and things like that, balancing, but every other normal turn, pretty much you're doing one of 2 things. You are either grabbing 3 country cards, and when you grab those cards, these are green for Germany, blue for France, yellow for Spain. Now you're grabbing any 3 of these. Now you can grab them off the top or from here, any combination, but they don't get refilled until after your turn. So you might take 1, 2, and then you take a 3rd one. Then this will get refilled for the next person. Okay, so that's one of the things you can do on your turn is take those cards. If you didn't want to do that, the other thing you can do is take one of these intrigue cards, which we'll talk about later, but this essentially will allow you to remove somebody or kick somebody out or kill somebody from either one of these 2 countries, Britain or France. We'll talk about more about how you use those later. So you're either taking one of these intrigue and one of any of these 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, or you're taking any 3 in any order you want there. Now after you take your cards, you can, if you want, play as many times as you want onto the board on your turn. So how does this happen? Well, let's say I have a handful of cards that look something like this. Now let's say I want to go into France. Now let's say I want to take over this spot right here. This is the Countess spot. Here shows me how many cards or how many country cards I'll need to have enough influence to take over this spot. And that's how much I'd say power this person has in this country. It's 1. Okay, so if I want to do this, I would have to drop 3 blue cards, but I don't have 3 blue cards. I have 2. With the country cards, you could take any 3 cards. I could take these 3, I could take these 3, it doesn't matter. Any 3 is 1 wild of anything. So I'll take these 3 plus these 2 blue, that equals 3 blue, and I will be able to put these in a discard pile, and I'll be able to take 2 cubes of my color and put them on the board. So the first cube goes here because that's who we're controlling. And I would take this 4 because I'm the first person to go to this town in the game. I take this 4, flip it over and put it in my pile so nobody knows how many points I have. This I keep to the end of the game. So I put 1 cube here to show me that, that basically I control this. And we also put another cube on the matching person in the noble house. So here we have the Countess, because that's going to be some game scoring later as well, I'll get to. Now later on, if somebody wants to play in this town as well, and they want to get the cardinal here, they could play 5 cards of blue, or any 5 cards of blue. They could go there. They would also put the gray cube on the cardinal in the noble house. But they can both be in the same town because they're controlling 2 different people. But because this scoring token got taken by this person, they don't get it. Now, later on during the game, let's say somebody wants to take over the cardinal. Let's say the black player does. What they would have to do is not only have the 5 cards to take over the cardinal, but they also need to have the intrigue card of France in order to do that. Now, if you remember, these intrigue cards are one of the things you can do on your turn. And if I drew this would allow me to take somebody out either in France or in Britain. But if I didn't have that, let's say over the course of 2 different turns, I got this one, and neither of them are blue. Neither of them are France. But just like the country cards you can use as wild, you can use any 2 of these for any 1 country color. So I could use these 2 as a blue intrigue card, which allows me to knock somebody out, basically kill them out of office, but I still have to pay the 5 blue cards to take over that cardinal spot. So let's say black came along, they played these 2 as a wild intrigue for blue, and they play down 1, 2, 3, 4, and they play down any 3 for wild as my 5th blue, and they're gonna take this guy out. He goes into the sort of graveyard of that town, and black takes it over. He would also put his cube on the cardinal, just like so, even though this guy got killed, he still gets to keep this cube here for the rest of the game, because we'll talk about how these score here in just a moment. So we look at France here, and black and orange are the only ones that have some representatives in France. This is worth 1 point of power. This is worth 2. So if the round ended now, the scoring, this person would have the most power in France. Now the king obviously has the most with 4, and if you want to kill the king, you actually need to throw 2 of those intrigue cards of blue in order to kill the king. Everyone else is just 1. Now, we showed you how to get these points here. Let's talk about how a round ends. So if this has to get refilled, let's just say like that, and there were no cards left, the round ends and we do some end round scoring. There's 3 rounds of the game, 3 different time periods. So at the end of the first round, we give out all these scoring markers. We look at each of these regions, Britain, Spain, Germany, and France, and we look at who has the most power. The most power is going to get the higher token. Whoever has the second most power is going to get the smaller token, and see how they go. France is worth the most, then England, then Spain, and then Germany on both of those accounts. And they're the same points for each round, but they're different for each region. So if this just happened to be how the first round ended, the black player would get to put that in front of him face down, and the orange player would get that. So they'd take that face down and put it in front of them for the sort of the end game scoring. If it's a tie, like for example, if this orange person also had one here, and see we have a power of 1, a power of 1, well, the one that has the higher power would get it. So the black would still have that scoring there. And of course, you would do this for every one of those regions, given the points all like that. You'd shuffle all the cards and you'd start another round. You would play like that for the other 2 rounds here. Now let's talk about some of the other scoring that happens in the game. Let's say during the game, orange takes up and has at least 1 person in every town. So we have, it doesn't matter if they have both people, just 1 in every of the towns. The first person to do that in any of the countries gets the higher shield. So they'd get the 7 point. If somebody else did it in France, they would get the 6 points. And you can see that there's those markers pretty much for every country. We have the different shield markers here and here and here. And that's how you can get those for each of those areas. Now looking at the noble house, we see all the different people. We have the marshal and the baron and the countess, the cardinal, the duke, the princess, and the king. We see white has a cube on every one there, which means they have actually at one point during the game had influence at least once on each of those people. Now, of course, if during the game they had gone to a person more than once, different cubes will start to accumulate here depending on how many people of that they controlled. But the first person to have at least 1 in all of those gets the highest point bonus here, 16, flips it over and puts it in front of them. Second person to get all is 12, third is 8. That can happen anytime pretty much during the game. And again, we'd go through 2 more rounds to the end of all the cards. Then we would be shuffling those up for the next round. We'd be giving out all these awards like I showed you before. And at the end of the game, there's some additional scoring for whoever has the most whoever put the most influence in each one of these. For example, you go through every one of these. Now this one, orange had 2, white had 1. In this case, orange would get this. It's 8 points at the end of the game. They would just take this. Now, if it's tied and there's more than 2 people tied, nobody gets the bonus. So in this case, nobody would get this 12-point bonus. The coolest thing in the game is if there's exactly 2 people tied, you see this is worth 6 points, this is a puzzle piece. They actually come apart, boom, they both have the guy's face on it, and they both get the points in half, because it was a 6-point person. They both get the guy for 3 points. That's one of the coolest. When we saw this, we went, whoa, that was just really cool. I'm surprised nobody's thought of that. Maybe somebody has, but this is the first time I'd seen it. It was really cool. So we would give all of those out, and that way you'd add those points up with all the other points you got at the game from all the different tokens that you've got, and all the different end tokens and mid-game tokens and all these, and you'd add those points up. Whoever has the most points at the end of the 3rd round is the winner. All right, well, there's Royals. Now, I loved Francis Drake, the same person that designed this, Peter House, and I saw him at BGG-Con this year, and he sat me down and showed me how to play this game. We play it, and I was blown away by it. It is an excellent 60-minute light Euro game. The thing I really love about it is you only have like couple choices on your turn on what to do. But the amount of depth that's in this game with just having a couple of choices of what you can do on your turn are huge. There's so many different ways you can go, and the thing that kept coming up every time we play this, the word pacing. This game, I mean, it's very fast pacing. I mean, even with 4 or 5 players, you play a turn, it's going to be your turn in like 20 or 30 seconds, maybe, because people are moving really fast. The pacing was just awesome in this game. There's like very little downtime. And if people are thinking a little bit longer, there's still many things for you to think about, because by the time it gets back to your turn, some things are going to happen, and it's not like you got to sit there and think. Like, you kind of know what's going on, you know what your choices are. the pacing is awesome in this game, and I love the amount of depth that's in this simply played game. You know, it's like, okay, am I going to go after just a lot of the points and be the first person in each of the regions first? Or am I going to start, you know, getting a bunch of cars to try to get the king's, take over the king? Am I going to try to be the first one to have each town, be the first one to have all the towns in one region to get that bonus? Am I going to be trying to spread out between all the different nobles in the noble house, all those different characters to try to get those bonuses? It's just like there's a lot of things to think about, even though it's a light game, and I love that because it's easy to teach, it moves very fast, it plays pretty fast, it's over in 60 minutes or less, but if it's area control, it is very mean. You will be messing people over, probably starting at like right before the middle of the game all the way to the second half of the game as people are fighting over different areas. So it is area control, it can be very mean, so know that. I mean, you're going to be messing with people towards the end of the game a lot, taking over different things. And just similar to Francis Drake, where it plays 2 to 5, it's best with 3 to 5, and it's just like Francis Drake, where it's more open with 3, so there's more places that you can go without having to be messing with people. Where with 4 it gets more brutal, and with 5 it's just like a bloodbath. So, and same with Francis Drake, it's like it was super tense with 5, and it was a little less with 4 and 3, but they're still excellent at every player count there. So otherwise, great. Gotta check this one out if you like light Euro games. And I'm not even like a big Euro gamer, but I love this because it just felt good. It was easy, it was fun, but yet it had that depth. Simple elegance with depth, and I think that's what did this game justice. Royals, don't sleep on this one.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.